It's over 2 months since the lockdown came into effect. While cities are partially opening, we're going to have to accept that this is the new normal, not just in India, but around the world. We will still need to be cautious and maintain social distancing to contain the spread of coronavirus. But just like the plight of migrant laborers, we seem to be completely ignoring another very critical reality in India, that we are headed towards a mental health crisis. And to get a mental health perspective, I'm now joined by Dr. Sameer Parekh from Fortis. Thank you very much, Dr. Parekh, for joining me on Zen Brain.
Thank you.
So as a psychiatrist, and the fact that your hospital runs a 24/7 mental health helpline, you're the best person to answer this. Are we headed towards a mental health crisis in India, or are we already in one?
I don't think this is a specific question for India. I think the world is going through psychosocial mental health, let's say, threat. I would not call it a crisis yet, but I do feel that we need to give importance to mental health right now in the context of the self, in the context of the social support systems, in the context of how we see our future. Some of these components of our life, which are integral to our well-being, they need to be given importance to, because the fact is there's a lot of anxiety about the future. The fact is there's a lot of anxiety around financial security. The fact is that there's a lot of anxiety around falling ill, and there is stigma creeping into our conversations and our attitudes towards COVID. You put all of this together and we don't know how the situation will evolve worldwide. So yes, if we don't take care enough and do more preemptive measures, we may well be looking at a mental health crisis the world might face in the near future.
But, speaking specifically about India, there was a research that was done recently. Over 300 people who have committed suicide during the lockdown, right? I think the number was 338. Tell us a little bit about this. This is very specific to India. We already had a mental health issue here pre-COVID. Do you think, the lockdown itself, the fear, the anxiety related to COVID has further exacerbated this mental health crisis?
See, Shruti, one needs to understand this, that suicide is amongst the top 10 killers. 90% of all people who die of suicide are people who've had some kind of an unidentified, untreated, partially treated psychiatric disorder, depression being the most common one, right? So suicides have been there, continue to be there. Now, when suicide happens in a certain period in time, sometimes we end up relating it to the atmosphere at that time or to the triggers, which may or may not be true. Yes, the concern is that there is social stigma which is creeping into our lives, which may have an impact on vulnerable people. And yes, that is a concern. But right now, to directly correlate suicides and COVID would be a bit premature. But to say that we need not give it importance would also be negligence. We need to ensure that our narrative encourages help-seeking behavior. Our narrative accepts anxiety as a normal component, and our narrative needs to be without stigma. Once we start doing that, more preventive in our approach, then as we fight against COVID, we also need to fight against the ramifications of COVID, one of them being mental health.
So, Doc, you have a 24/7 mental health helpline, right? What are the kinds of calls that are coming in, and are you able to handle that over the phone, or is there something more that is required?
See, a helpline essentially functions on crisis intervention modalities, meaning that if somebody is going through a crisis, is not able to find a solution, calls up, seeks help, gets an immediate solution, which postpones any kind of self-harming behavior or postpones any kind of other immediate impact, and then you guide the individual to take further help, involve the family. Typically, that's how helplines work. Specific to COVID, the kind of anxieties people have been calling with, one obviously being that what if I fall ill? What if my family falls ill? So there's a lot of anxiety around that. Then the other anxiety is what happens to the future, and let's accept it. Financial anxiety right now is amongst the top anxieties most people are experiencing, because at almost all levels, everybody is affected. The impact may be different based on the background that one is from, but there is an impact. And then there is an anxiety about, earlier it was about work from home and that entire realignment of life cycle. And now it's about the new normal where the anxiety of going back with COVID hovering around us. So those anxieties are what people come up with: sleep disturbance, irritability, anger outbursts, relationship issues, feeling frustrated. These are some of the common themes that people reach out to us for.
Layoffs, that's a huge concern, wouldn't you say? And you mentioned financial insecurity. What is your advice to somebody who's just been laid off?
Shruti, let's be empathetic here. There is nothing that one can say that can make any person feel different or better or relieved in any which way, no matter what we say. Because this is an individual crisis that individual experiences. My advice to people has been on the fact that just do one thing: don't personalize it. Don't allow it to convince you that there was something lacking in you as an individual, that you were laid off. What has happened worldwide. It's happened because of an illness. None of it is about you. So do not let your confidence and self belief take a beating. Give it time. Your education is the same, your intelligence is still the same. You have reached where you have reached because of all the efforts you've put in. All you now need to do is wait for the time to come, re-put those efforts, and you back yourself for your success. The mistake would be to personalize it.
But there is an immediate issue, really. People are struggling for money.
Actually, there are a couple of things that we all can do. What we can do at a government level, the government needs to look at whatever best it can do for its citizens. But I also feel organizations need to also raise the bar of their own empathy and their own altruism and figure out what they can do. The haves have to take care of, at whatever level they can, of those who are struggling in the have not zone. So we all can play our own part. Social support systems have to live up to themselves. That's the key. So yes, if I go through a layoff and if I'm going through a financial crisis, I need my support systems to stand with me, help me go through this phase. But if I'm left alone to deal with everything in these times, that's not how mankind should be. I mean, we have to find the empathy and altruism, and we have to find a genuine connectedness and compassion towards each other. We just have to stand up with each other now, and these are the right times, or let's say the best times, for family, for friends, for colleagues, for well-wishers to actually be counted for in the true sense.
There's some things that a professional can do, but there's something that we as a community can do with each other. I want to address attempted suicides. Are you seeing a spike in the number of calls that are coming in where people are distressed enough to do this kind of thing? And how do the loved ones of people who are actually going through this, how can they help?
A couple of things. Anxiety related calls have increased. People reaching out for a variety of anxieties like the ones that I mentioned: health, future, readjustment. That is very much happening. The suicide related component of helpline continues to be the way that it always was. To say that statistically there is a significant which has happened in this short span in time, I don't think would be the best way to look at it. We need a lot more time to be able to understand that kind of an impact. And like I said earlier, families have to be counted for. Families need to ensure that they stick together, they support each other, they are able to understand if any one individual is going through a crisis, low moods, withdrawn, irritability, struggling, frustration, verbalizing hopelessness, verbalizing a sense of loss of desire. You see that, you stand by them, you talk to them, You make sure that they feel better. And if need be, you take them to an expert.
And I'd just like to make a note here, and perhaps you can back me up on this, is that there is now a Mental Health Act which came into effect in 2018, and that decriminalizes attempted suicide. So it's okay to talk about it, and it's important to talk about it. Doc, would you like to expand on that?
Absolutely. The only solution is talking about it, not bottling it up, seeking help. We need to enhance, encourage help-seeking behavior. Talking to a friend, family, counselor, colleague, senior, neighbor, expert, but talk to someone. At a moment of crisis, reach out to a helpline. I do feel we should have a national suicide prevention policy. I do feel that we need to increase the number of helplines, especially in various vernaculars, and promote it locally, that people have a clear access to it, that they know something like this exists. I also feel that we need to use Digital India to the best to be able to create a better outreach of mental health programs and services in areas where experts are not there. And I also feel that a strong emphasis on preventive community mental health needs to happen. Life skills for schools and colleges, community networks, community social support systems. We need to build these pillars of our society so that the next time some calamity like this strikes us, we will have all, this is like a disaster management plan, which needs to have a mental health component in it.
You have been a very, very strong proponent of suicide prevention policy in India.
I have.
Yeah.
A lot of countries, I feel a lot of countries do have. I feel we should also have one. Suicide prevention will include a lot of things. The right messaging that comes through government agencies, the right accessibility that we create, including of helplines, primary care of mental health, reaching primary health care at all levels, district and villages and rural India. The fact that you use digitalization to create cost-effective access of experts. You create helplines in local vernaculars. You create help-seeking behavior encouragement by working with schools and colleges and panchayats. You train primary healthcare workers, Anganwadi workers to screen, do basic counseling, look at that component. You bring corporate India to, start focusing on mental health outcomes so that people in working communities, when they go through their crisis, there is an inbuilt system which has mental health outcome as much as a priority as the EBITDAs and the PNLs. You look at all those components, and then you have the role models of the society, people who are influencers who keep talking about it, keep promoting mental well-being, give importance to mental health, put all of this together. That's when in a decade or two we'll be able to make some difference. See, changes take time to happen, especially when it is about our attitudes. So consistency in our approach is very important.
Mindset changes are very, very important. But if somebody is watching this and that person is going through anxiety of some sort and is contemplating suicide, what is the message that you'd like to give?
No matter how difficult it seems at this moment, there is absolutely nothing that does not have a solution. And the moment you pass that moment and you are able to see the solution, life looks different because life becomes different. It's about passing that zone and understanding, and you need to figure out what is your motivation. It could be family, it could be friends, it could be children, it could be parents, it could be how you think about yourself. It's about what legacy you want to leave. It could be what motivates you. How do you want to contribute to the society? How do you want to look at your own self? There are so many aspects. You figure out which is a thought that works for you. But most importantly, unmute yourself. You talk to someone. It could be anybody. It doesn't always have to be a professional. Your first conversation can be with anybody. And with the help of your support system, if you feel things are not making you feel better, then you go take help. Help is available, accessible, cost-effective, beneficial. Whether it comes through medications or therapy or support systems, there is a solution. And there is absolutely nothing that is more important than life. And the biggest loss is the loss that loved ones experience. And the trauma of losing somebody is almost impossible to get over.
Absolutely. And it is important to talk about it. If you feel it, you must talk about it. If you think you know somebody who's going through it, it's also important to initiate that conversation with that person. Because, Doc, in a discussion that we've had earlier, it reduces the chances of somebody actually attempting suicide just by talking about it, isn't it?
That's true. If you talk, if you express, if you share your emotions and distress thoughts, um, your chances of any kind of self-harming during that particular moment drastically reduce.
This is an important message to really, really talk about. It's been 2 months since the lockdown began, at least in India. There is exhaustion creeping in. There is also extreme loneliness that has crept in. What are some of the things that a person can do at home to avoid slipping into feelings of despair? Say the top 5, according to you, would be.
Have a routine. Don't allow yourself not to be in a routine, because if you start your day without having a clarity of how you're going to, if you're going to be lazy, listless, and dull, you will feel worse. Make sure that you maintain your productivity. Now, productivity can well be taking care of your plants, your pets. It could well be looking after your own home. And if you are working from home or you're working flexible routine, but maintain your productivity, it maintains your sense of self-esteem. And be very clear, productivity is not only work. Every other thing that we are doing is being productive. You look at connectivity, which basically means utilize all forms of connections that you have. Do a lot of video calls. Prefer video calls over audio calls. Prefer audio calls over texts. Say goodbye to texts and pick up the phone and make video calls. You will feel the true connection. Do pick up something that you like doing. Anything. It could be something new, it could be something creative, but do that. And fifth would be family time. Spend quality family time. This is an opportunity where you can rekindle, re energize, rebuild your relationships.
This is going to be the new normal. Really emphasize on cautioning people to remain careful, to follow certain rules. But one last message from you, Doc.
I feel that the fact that lockdown's opening does not mean that COVID is gone. I think that's something we all need to appreciate. We need to continue to follow health ministry guidelines, medical advisories, and do that 100 on 100. My concern is most of us end up doing 75 to 80 on 100, and the remaining 25 to 80, we either take it for granted or our sense of narcissism gets the better of us, where we feel it won't happen to us, or I'm taking adequate care. Oh, that's just a close friend. If I meet him or her, it won't matter. Or how does it matter if a family member just comes over? We need to understand that we need to maintain physical distancing, sanitization. The slightest of symptom happening, you talk to a doctor. If the doctor advises you quarantine, please do it absolutely undiluted. And alongside that, you stay positive, you stay connected, and you stay together. And remember, there is no stigma because it involves all of us. It's like stigmatizing our own selves. So we bring, on the contrary, our altruism, our empathy out of our closets and contribute in this fight. We can all be a part of the solution here. We need to make sure that we are not a part of the problem.
I have to ask, a lot of people have written into us that, there's a level of digital addiction that has come about. Kids have more screen time because parents are busy. What is your advice to people who perhaps are going through that?
I would like to wait for a few more months for the entire COVID to tide over before I would get into the whole digitalization. Spend indoor time digitally and feel productive, feel relaxed, and feel connected with your family and friends through that. Right now, I will let it pass as to how much time you are spending on it. Right now is the time to stay safe, stay positive, and stay connected.
Very, very interesting. And I think it's very useful for parents to hear that, who are worried that their kids have more screen time. So that's a good point. Mental health outcomes from the COVID pandemic should also be important and also a priority as much as physical outcomes are. Well, on that note, thank you, Dr. Parekh, for the precious time that we've taken you away from. And for all those of you watching, there are various ways you can reach us on ZenBrain, on social media, and also on email. So thanks for watching. Hope this has answered at least some of your queries. And don't forget to reach out to people who you think may be in distress. We'll see you again soon. Thank you very much, Doc, for joining us.